Hey there, welcome to Pulling Threads. It's been a minute, I know. Please forgive me. Summertime has brought more distractions than I could have anticipated. But today I want to talk about something that really hits close to home for me and has affected my summer in a positive way. It has kept me away from recording, but life needed to take a pause for a little bit and I needed to try some new things. So we're going to talk about how trauma affects our ability to try new things, and more importantly, how we can rewire our brain at any age. I'm going to tell you how I did it. First, I'm going to share a little bit about my story, including how golf, of all things, became a healing tool I never expected. Then I'm going to walk you through some of the brain science behind fear, courage, and change. So grab a cup of something cozy or a warm blanket, take a deep breath, and let's dive in. We are going to talk about a few of my favorite things, and this might sound strange, but trauma is one of them. It's what I study, it's what most of my work has been throughout my life as a speech pathologist, now as a therapist and a coach, and it's what I work with and something I feel really passionately about helping people with. So we're going to talk about golf in terms of trauma, which I know sounds strange and unexpected, but it is my newest obsession. And if you've ever avoided something new, it might not be because you didn't want to. I've certainly wanted to most of my life. And I'm just now at a point where I can easily try new things without so much fear that came from my past trauma. Sometimes because you were afraid to look silly or you were afraid to fail or you believed that you didn't belong somewhere, then you don't try new things. And if that's, you're not alone. For a long time, I wanted to try many different sports. I'm curious about pickleball, but I haven't put myself out there with that one quite yet. Because growing up, I learned early on that trying and failing was really dangerous. So for a lot of my life, I didn't try new things, especially sports related. It was emotionally, mentally, and sometimes physically dangerous for me to try new things. I was given a diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis around the age of 12, which quickly became an excuse for me and a reason to allow myself not to try new things, even when deep down I really wanted to. But my complex trauma from very early in my life wired my nervous system for protection over exploration. Our nervous systems can tell us that we shouldn't take risks, that we don't want to be seen trying, and that we shouldn't take up space where we might not belong, and that it's safer just to not try than it is to put ourselves out there. It's not a mindset, though. That's not what I'm talking about here. This is not the difference between one mindset or making yourself be a certain way. This is a physiological pattern that's rooted in the way that our brains have learned to anticipate danger and to avoid vulnerability. This isn't always in our control, and we usually don't know it's happening, but we can change it once we do know. So here's the hopeful part of all of this. We now know that our brains are not fixed, meaning they are these brilliant organs with healing capacities and rewiring capabilities, even after decades of trauma. Your brain is plastic, meaning it can change. The new pathways can be built. You can unlearn fear-based patterns and replace them with trust-based ones, and you can trust in yourself. This is called neuroplasticity. And without it, I wouldn't have a job. So we know this, and we know it because it's science. We have used functional MRI and other studies, so we know this is real. We know our brains learn and create new pathways. Neuroscience has shown us that through consistent, repeated experience, whether it's therapy, mindfulness, mindful movement, or learning something new, we can rewire how we respond to challenge and uncertainty. We can build resilience. The fear doesn't have to run the show forever. And I am evidence that it doesn't have to run the show any longer at all. So you might ask, how do you start rewiring your brain? It does take some effort to rewire your brain, and it can be scary. But you can go about it slow, just putting one foot in front of the other, one day at a time. There's some evidence-based ways to begin. Like I said, start small. Pick something that scares you just a little, something you can practice repeatedly with a lot of kindness and compassion. That is the key. Notice the narrative around the thing you're doing. What's the story in your head when you feel afraid of doing it? Is it, I don't belong? Is it, I look silly? Is it, I'm going to fail? I'm going to embarrass myself? Challenge that thought gently. You don't have to believe everything your brain says, and you shouldn't. You can prove it wrong. So move your body. Physical movement, especially in new ways, stimulates brain growth and builds resilience. Walking, dancing, golfing, CrossFit, Pilates, any of those will do it. And yes, golfing has worked wonderfully for me. I recommend also practicing mindfulness because mindfulness really helps you stay with the discomfort long enough to transform it. What that means is instead of reacting to fear of trying something new or doing the activity, you can respond to it with curiosity. And that looks like just asking, why am I so afraid of this? What's the worst thing that could happen? If you watch this show, This Is Us, they always talk about what's the worst case scenario. Okay, what's the worst case scenario if you swing a golf club? You look silly, you miss the ball. That's probably about it. What's the best thing that can happen? What's all the in between the worst and the best, or the best and the worst? When we become mindful and curious, we open so many doors for ourselves. I also recommend getting some support in whatever the new endeavor is and whatever you're trying. Maybe you're building yourself up to something. You can get support through therapy, support groups, friends, all of whom can help you rewire your brain. You don't have to do it alone. And rewrite your narrative about trying new things. I'll share a little bit about my golf story and let you know how it showed up in my life. I had always wanted to try golf. I grew up around friends who golfed, but I didn't have a dad who golfed, and I didn't even have a dad around after about age 8. So all of those friends had one parent or another who golfed, and they also had the money to do it, and they had a lot of parental support, I would say. They had someone who was helping them with it. And now I look back, there was always a part of me that wanted to go and wanted to try. But I never spoke up and asked any of those friends or their parents. I think knowing those friends and those parents, had I come out and said, I really want to try golf, they would have made it happen. They definitely would have taken me along because they did in lots of other things. They might have even helped me get clubs. But my mom couldn't afford clubs. And in my mind, already in my teenage years, I determined that golf was never going to be something that I did. And that if I did and I tried it, I would fail anyway because I had labeled myself a non-athlete very early on. I decided I'd look silly. I was embarrassed to try. Like any new sport or any movements with my body, dancing, anything. I wrote a narrative that was very early on in my life that I wasn't athletic, so I didn't belong in any of those spaces. And that I was very detrimental to me to even try. I do think I learned some of that early on, like putting myself out there and trying new things would result in getting teased or made fun of or criticized because I wasn't super coordinated as a kid. So when I did try something new, it was pretty scary. At one point, my sister did a dance class. We were really young. I was probably maybe 4 or 5, I think. And it made her really sick in her stomach because she was so nervous about going. And she was exactly 1 year older than me. Because she had a lot of nervousness, I wasn't even allowed to try it. My mom said, no, you'll just do the same thing and we'll waste money. Oh, if you try it, you're going to get a stomach ache like she did. So, it's going to be scary. You're not going to want to do it. We're not trying it. When that happened, because I begged, can I please do it? My friends were doing it. I was really little, but I wanted to try dance. When I was told, no, you'll be scared too, I attached something to that message without anyone realizing it. No one was trying to prevent me from trying new things. But as a very young child, I determined, trying new things like dance, sports, etc. is scary, hard. I'm not going to be good at it. And so I should never try. I thought it might make me sick. And from there on out, that was the story I stuck with. The other story really did have to do with our financial situation, because if I'm being honest, I didn't feel I belonged on a golf course specifically or at a golf club, because I just didn't. Again, it had to do with trauma around money, my parents' divorce, things that no one intentionally tried to make me believe. I don't even think any of my friends ever said anything like that to suggest it. But the narrative existed already in my brain. And it was just an idea that I formed about myself because of my situation. So when I was married, I became curious about golfing again and really wanted to try. We live in Florida, and we're surrounded by golf courses. And there was a beautiful course right by our house that I walked past all the time. And I did think about it, but I didn't want to try it on my own. I was going to be starting off, and I told myself I would look pretty silly, which when I did try, I did. But I didn't have anyone else to try it with either, and that didn't feel safe to do it by myself. And to be honest, I think before I started doing a lot of work on myself, even doing it with someone who was safe might not have felt safe. I just hadn't done enough work before. As I started doing therapy and I started thinking about it more and more, I'd say I started considering golf and pickleball because that was becoming really popular. So about 3.5 to 4 years into therapy, a lot of my trauma had been worked through. It's an ongoing process. You're never done. But I no longer felt the block to try new things. And my boyfriend wanted to pick back up with golf. He had taken a break. So it seemed like the perfect time. Also, Topgolf existed, and I was going there with the kids and swinging ridiculously. And I really wanted to be good at that. Topgolf was fun. So I tried something different. I tried doing it anyway, even if I looked ridiculous, even if I felt like I didn't belong, even though I looked silly and wasn't quite sure how I was going to feel. I went to Dick's and bought some clubs. And I took some courses and started going to the driving range. And I did absolutely look ridiculous. I even videoed myself looking ridiculous. I just posted a video showing my first swing at the driving range and then comparing it to now. It's only been a year. But not only now can I look at that video, but I can post it and say, this is where I started. So I kept going. I kept swinging. I kept going to Topgolf, even though I looked ridiculous. Somewhere between the awkward first swing and some quiet afternoon on the green, something started changing. I started to rewire, not just for golf, but for other things like doing this podcast. The fear of doing something new and putting myself out there became smaller and smaller. And the joy coming from golfing and talking online and trusting myself to be a therapist and a coach and really recognizing myself as someone who has something to offer other people, it just became louder and less blocked. And the joy from it was and still is overpowering the fear. I started trusting myself, not just in golf, but in other parts of my life too. So I'm sharing this story with you in hope that if there's something that you've wanted to try your whole life, you at least take baby steps. Dip your toe in the water and see. Golf has become so much more than a hobby for me. It's a metaphor. It's taught me so much. It taught me that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's just the willingness to take the swing anyway. That healing isn't linear. It's round after round of small efforts that build confidence. And sometimes rounds that steal your confidence and make you think you're back to square one. And the only way to get to the big course, the 18 holes, is through struggling on the little ones. That's the metaphor. And that's the thing we can apply to all of our lives. Every day. One baby step at a time. So my invitation to you is to ask, what's the one thing you've always wanted to try but felt afraid to? What's your version of golf and a golf course? The place you didn't think you belonged because of an old story written by an 8-year-old. What tiny risk could you take this week? Not to be perfect, but to just show up. Please let me know how you're going to show your nervous system that it's safe to show up. Your brain is capable of learning. Your brain is capable of experiencing immense joy. You're capable of learning anything. The story is still being written, and it can be rewritten, and those old narratives can be erased, and every brave little swing counts. So, thank you for being here with me today, hearing my story, and hopefully, if it resonates, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your story. So reach out. You can DM me on Instagram. You can leave comments on YouTube. On Instagram, you can send the DM to The Loom Life, or my new Instagram and YouTube, Par and Peace. Just let me know your story. What's your version of golf? What have you overcome, or what do you want to overcome? Until next time, keep pulling the threads and unprogram all those things that you don't need anymore. Sending you lots and lots of love and light.